Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to be dealing with a little bit of practice related to expected, unexpected inflation, mostly that. And then we're going to use the CPI to do some analysis of inflation rates. Let's get started. Okay, so beginning with Derek Stan here, experiencing severe and unanticipated inflation. Well, that's too bad for Derek Stan. Explain the effect on the following: a family with savings in a fixed interest rate time deposit account. So this is a mouthful up here, but it's saying that you're paying fixed interest in a time deposit account. That's a savings account of some kind. And we'll come back later and talk about different types of savings accounts. But it's paying a fixed interest rate, and it's a time deposit, so it's kind of a locked in savings. Now, this person can't pull their money back out. And so as a result, their fixed interest rate is a nominal fixed interest rate, which means their real interest rate is decreasing. So we're going to say hurt because I sub R decreases as inflation increases and I sub N is fixed. So that's a little bit of a technical phrasing here to say. What we're saying is that they're hurt. And the reason why they're hurt, right, that's the effect, is because their real interest rate, let me kind of just go whoop, whoop, like that, their real interest rate is going to go down as the inflation rate rises and the nominal rate is fixed. You could do a little math problem if that helps you to think through. If the nominal rate was 10 and we expected the inflation rate to be 2, then our interest rate that we're earning is 8. But if the inflation rate is 12, then we're actually earning a negative interest rate on our savings account. And so we can't avoid that problem, right? So it's hurting us as a result. C2 or A2, a business repaying a long-term fixed interest rate loan. So in this case, they're on the other side of that. They are helped. And it's actually for the same reasons. Their real interest rate decreases as inflation increases and I sub N is fixed. And we can actually say that they're the borrower. And that's why they're being helped, right? So if that's confusing to you here, this is the saver and that's the borrower. And one of them is receiving the interest rate and one of them is paying it. And for this one, they're paying it. And so that's why it's better for them. This should say B. I'm sorry about that. And suppose that Derek Stan continues to experience high inflation. What's the effect on the nominal interest rate in Derek Stan? So if we expected, right, high inflation, then our nominal interest rate is just going to tick upwards, because as we expect inflation, the nominal rate will kind of adjust to include that. So we would see it increase. Nominal rate would increase because expectations of inflation will increase. And so basically it's people would say, oh, well, I think inflation is going to be high. And so therefore they're going to say, I want a higher nominal interest rate in order to do a deal, right? To make sure that that takes into account that higher inflation rate. Data and prices for two countries, Joe and Robland. It should look very similar to when we did something very similar with GDP. Calculate the inflation rate in Robland from year 1 to year 2. So to do that, we can actually use the GDP deflator. These could be CPIs or they could be GDP deflators. We're going to use the deflator for it since that's what we have. 110 minus 100 over 100, and it's times 100. And so that is equal to 10%. And again, I'm just doing what's that rate of change between 100 to 110. Inflation rate in Joe land from year 1 to year 2 is 5% for similar reasons. 100 times 100 equals 5%. Was Joe Land experiencing inflation, deflation, insufficient evidence? Well, Joe Land is experiencing inflation, and that's because this is a positive number, right? We can see it. Based on your answers to parts A and B, if the nominal rate is the same for both nations, which nation experiences the higher real interest rate in year 2? And so, in other words, which country has the lower inflation rate is actually what it is. And so the answer here is Joe Land, because its I sub R is less, or oops. I totally miffed that. Its inflation rate is lower. So its I sub R is higher. And in essence, we're just saying if we had the same nominal value, if they were both like I sub N 10%, like for Joe Land and for Rob Land. So that's Rob Land, that's Joe Land. And then Rob Land, we take away the inflation rate of 10%. And so that leads a 0% I sub R. But for these folks, it's only a 5%. So they have a 5% real interest rate. It's really just kind of pick a number in your head and see how those play out. So hopefully this helped you with thinking through how we measure inflation. We could do it with, again, could be a CPI, could be a GDP deflator. It's the same difference. And then who's helped and who's hurt by unexpected inflation. I'll see you next time.